Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget video. Today we are going to use the springs, or some of the springs, that we took off of our clothespins when we made the clothespin rocking chair in my Build Your Stash and Craft series. And I was asked what was I going to do with these. Now, they just make some really cool looks in some mixed media projects. If you're making a 3D mixed media, I like to use them for that. But I also saw a lady who made a star. She connected them together, the spring ends like this, and she did, I think, 10 of them. And then she folded them to make like the point of a star, and all the way around. These ones have like an angle to them, and so they don't work that way. And so I tried putting them together and couldn't get it to do it. But when you pull them off your clothespin, they look like this. And the two little legs are, the leg coming from this side goes around the back of this one, and this one comes around the back of this one. But what I do is I just kind of pull them apart and let them come to their own side of each other. So this one's over here and this one's back here. And then when they come apart, they're pretty close together. And what I do is I just grab the two sides and I just pull apart a little bit, and that gives you a little bit of a gap, because for what we're going to do today, we want to be able to put that onto something. Now this one right here, I pulled apart a little bit too far, and this one right here looks pretty good. It's about the thickness of our book cover. And what we're going to use is we're going to use them for ties. So I'm going to set those aside, and I'm just going to show you when you tie your book together, you want to have some ribbons or something to tie your book together. And so I just have some ribbons here, and I am going to put them on a wire needle. A wire needle is just a piece of wire folded in half. And then you can use that as a needle, but you don't have to thread the needle. You can just slide whatever you want to put through something. You can just slide it between the two wires. It makes it easier for a lot of different things, something like this where you've got all this big bulk. And then I'm just going to go through the holes in the spring and just pull those through like that. Now I don't want to pull them all the way through, so I'm going to find the middle, take my wire off, and then just pull one side through. I want to keep the other side over here. That's hard to do. I really did it I was too long when I did that. All right, here's all of them. I'm trying to pull through this side. And I pulled some of them through. So we're going to do this again. I'm going to take my ribbons and instead of putting the needle halfway down, which is what I did, I'm just going to put it right up close to the top so I have enough to fold over and hang on to. That's what I should have done. And then I'm just going to go through the springs, and then I can pull it through. So now that I have it running straight through just like this. I'm going to kind of find the middle. And then for a book page, or for ties on a book, I'm going to tie it right out here at the end. If you want to make something that you can clip on the spine of your book, then you're going to want to do it to one side or the other, so that, because you want your ribbons to come out here, not straight out the top. And so for this one, because I'm going to make this to go out the spine of on the spine of the book, I'm going to put it over to one side and just take the ribbons and tie them around each other. I'm just going to set this down so that I can give it a pull. My organza is not pulling with the rest, so I'll get a hold of that. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm just going to kind of hold that down and do it one more time so that I have a knot so that they don't come undone. Put that over there. Tuck them through and give it a pull. So there we go. Like I said, if you want it to come out the edge of your book like this, so you can tie them together front and back, you just put it through this side. And if you want it to go off the edge like this, and then doing it this way, you'll be able to stick it right on the spine of your book. You just slide that right onto the spine, and you've got all of these pretty ribbons hanging off the end. And then what you can do is you can take some like a jump ring and some chain and some charms and stuff, and hook them onto the springs so that they'll also hang down with your ribbon, and they'll hang right down in the middle here, and it will look really pretty. And maybe we'll get a chance to do that at the end. But that is how you tie the ribbon to your spring. Once you have the ribbon tied to your spring, I have some here. This is the one I'm going to use on our journal, and like I said, I've got that tied right out the end so that it's just like this. And I'm going to pull our journal up here and show you how I hook it on. Now what I do, this is 9 inches. I measured my book because I wanted this to be in the middle. And so this is 9 inches from top to bottom. And so that means 4.5 is my center point. Now I don't want to put one of my lines on 4.5 because I want my center point to be right in the middle of them. So I am going to line it up so that the middle of this, turn this around so I can get it closer. Put my ruler on there, and then I'm going to put the middle of my spring at 4.5. So I want that to be right in the middle here. And then just slide that down. Okay, so now we have it on there like that. We have our ribbons coming out the end like this, and we want that to stay there. So what I glue that on with, because I want it to stay well, I glue it on. This is Fix-It-All adhesive. It's a super glue product that I get at the Dollar Tree, and it's a gel super glue. Now it takes 24 hours before it's completely cured, so you don't want to be pulling on it for 24 hours. But then I just take it and I kind of lift up a little bit on the spring and make sure that I get some underneath. Spread it around on the top. So there we've got that. And then you just want to make sure that you don't get your ribbons. You don't want your ribbons to touch your glue. And then I'm going to put some on this one over here. Put a little bit of glue on there. Then I'm going to lift the spring a bit, go underneath of it, go over top of it, and then that's going to need to dry. Now, the one thing that I usually like to do once I've got that done is take my ruler and make sure that I haven't moved it. I want to make sure that my center is still about at 4.5. And I slide my spring right down to the edge of my book so that it's touching. And so that looks like the center is right at about 4.5, so I'm good there. I'm just going to open this up, kind of put my glue back over. And then I'm going to put a piece of parchment over top of this so that I can flip the book around the other way. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull half of my ribbons out this way, half of my ribbons out that way, and then put the parchment over the back and the inside. Just like that. That way we can go to the front of the book without gluing it to our pages or to our desk. So we'll just slide that over because I have this one already done. This one I have already glued, and I've already let the glue dry. It has not dried for 24 hours, so I'm not going to want to pull on it. It's dried for around an hour, and it is dry now. You need this to be dry before you do the next step because we are going to put fun foam on here. Sorry about that. Telemarketers just love us. We're going to put fun foam on here, and fun foam, I believe, will melt with the super glue. So I want to make sure that's dry first, but I want that on good and solid. And so then what I've done, I'm going to set this aside for a second. So then what I've done is I have cut 4 pieces, little rectangles of fun foam. And these are, let's see here, 1 1/4 inches long and 3/4 of an inch wide. And I'm going to make something that looks like a little hinge to put on top of that. So what I have is just a pen, just a regular, the kind of pen that you can, you know, put in and out. Put the ink pen in so that you've just got the little hole thing there. And I'm going to make little marks like where the screws would be in my hinge. So I'm just going to kind of come in from the corner and press this down and give it just a little turn. Come down to the bottom corner, do the same thing. See, this is what it looks like. And then I'm just going to go to the center. And you can measure this if you want to. I usually just eyeball it. And so there we go. Now this is our little hinge. And then we're going to paint this silver. First I need to put the glue lid back on my glue. And put some silver paint on this. I need a brush. Sorry about that. Okay, and I'm just going to put a little silver on there, which is just a little dot of silver. Way too much is what I've got on there, and I'm going to put a piece of paper underneath of it, because I don't want to get the paint all over my parchment here. And I'm just going to paint it. Make sure that you get your paint down into your screw holes. And I chose blue fun foam just because it matches our book. Now we're going to put 2 coats of the silver on here. And you want to make sure that you get your edges. So go around and make sure that you have those. Make sure that your paint is nice and smooth. Now I could have left these blue. I could make them any color that I wanted to, but I thought silver was a really pretty color for this journal with the blues and purples and the colors that it has in it. So now I'm going to let that dry a little bit and then put a second coat on that, and it will be ready to use. So I'll set that aside. And so I have 3 here that are already done. That's our 4th, because we will need 2 for the front and 2 for the back. And so I'm going to make sure that they're all about the same size. This one's a little bit smaller, and so I think it goes with the other. Yes, it does. So they were a little crooked, so I kind of cut them a little bit, so that's smaller. It doesn't really matter because 2 are for the front and 2 are for the back. So now I'm going to bring our book back up here. And we are going to take these hinges and we are going to glue them right up to the edge of the book and glue them down so it will look like there's a hinge there with a spring coming out from it. Okay. And I'm not going to glue it with the Fix-It-All adhesive because I do believe that this will melt it. So I will be right back because I've also forgot my tacky glue. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I am back and I have my tacky glue now. Put that there, and I am just going to, might as well start with the inside. There we've got our inside. dried up on the top. I need to get that off of there. Guess I should have checked that, huh? Okay, so now we're going to put some tacky glue on here. And we want to have just enough so that it doesn't squish out all over the place. More in the middle, because that'll squish out towards, you know, the edges. It'll squish out underneath. But make sure that we've got it around the edges too. Okay. And then I want the one screw to be towards the bottom so that it looks like the two screws are on each side of our spring. And if you don't like the looks of this, you can put anything over here that you would want to. You know, you can put a piece of fabric on here, piece of paper. You could leave it like it is if you like the spring showing. If you're doing some kind of a, I can't think of it now, a steampunk journal, it would look kind of cool with just the spring on there, no covering at all. And then we're just going to kind of give that a push. Now, the spring, and it does kind of round around the spring, see there? But and the spring is kind of pushing on it, so you want to make sure that you press on it till it has good contact, and then when you put the other side on, then you'll be able to press on both sides until they kind of actually give a really good grab. So there's that one. So then we'll do this one. Making sure I get up to the edges. And I like silver and blue together, and that's why I chose silver for my springs. And we're also going to put a book plate on here. I lost my lid. There we go. And again, I want my two screws towards the spring. And now at this point, I want to kind of line them up a little bit. Oh, that's not going to work. I forgot. That's not going to work because our spring has the line here and the line over here. And I do want this part of the spring that comes down, I do want that in the middle. But if you want your two little hinges to line up exactly, then you can move your hinge over this way and up that way so that it's centered in the middle of the spring and not over the long straight part. Hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do that. I'm going to come back and give the bottom another good push. The bottom's holding pretty well. And I am happy with the way that that looks. Just make sure that our front here has a nice good amount of contact. Let it get till it sticks. Okay, and that is what that looks like. And I just love the way they looked in the spring. Like gives your little hinge dimension, which I really like the looks of that. And then we're going to put a book plate on here. Now I think that I would like a heart book plate. So what I'm going to do, I want it to go right in this area here. And so I'm going to cut a square that's about the size that I want the heart. Yeah, that looks good by the time I cut it down. Cut that off. And how long do I want it? I probably don't want it any longer than this. That's not the way I had it. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, I'm gonna press my hinges down again. And then we're gonna fold this in half. And we are going to cut out a heart for our book plate. And we'll see if we like the way that that looks. And it's a little bit too boxy, so I want to take a little bit of that off. And I didn't like the way that it kind of was rounded here, so I want to try and get myself a good point right there. Okay, so let's see how that looks. I think that's going to look really nice. I wanted it to fit like right between the horse's legs there. So I think that's going to be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it back in half again, and I'm going to cut out the center to make it into a book plate. And I just want to make sure that I try and keep this outside about the same thickness as I go around. And there we go. Now this is going to be our book plate. But we have to put screws on it. We have to put a little decoration on it. So we're going to push these back on here again. Make sure that we've got good contact. And if you have to go back later and put just a little more glue on there, you can always do that. Because this part is really just for looks. We've already glued that spring on there really well. So the little hinge is just decoration. Okay, I'm going to take the whole book and set it aside. And we're going to decorate up our book plate. So the first thing I want to do is find my ruler that I did just have here. Oh, I set the book on it. Okay. I want to mark the spot where I'm going to put my screws in. I think that looks pretty good, and I'm going to just do the same thing that we did on the other, just to mark that spot, because we're going to make little screws actually to put on top of there. And then we're just going to decorate our heart in just some kind of a pretty fashion. And you can just, we're just wanting to put like a little bit of denting on it so that when we paint it, it has texture. I am using a blue pen, because that way, if my paint doesn't cover it all, I might just leave the blue pen showing. You know, I'll have to see what I think of that, you know, when the time comes. If I don't like it, then another coat of paint goes on. But if I like it, then I'll just leave it that way. And I'm just any kind of random doodling you can do on here. I don't know why, I just kind of liked the kind of stitched look. I didn't have any plans when I started it, but as soon as I put those couple little dashes up there, I thought, that's what I want to do. I apologize if I'm getting my hands in your way, because it's so thin it wants to move. One, two, three, four, five. And it's not going to work that way on this side. It's going to be 4. There we go. So do I want to do anything else to it? I think I like it. Maybe put just another one of these up here. That, maybe just a little circle right there in the center. Okay, then we're just going to take our silver paint and we're going to paint it silver, and we're going to put another coat on that one because we need 2 coats. Those ones I wanted to definitely be silver. See how the blue shows through just a little bit? I don't know if you can see that. And you might like it just like that, being that it's got the blue cover. But I had just decided I wanted them to be, the hinges, I definitely wanted to be like a dark, just solid silver, not, not with the blue on it. I'm just making sure that I get really well into my screw holes, get the edges. And then just give it a nice smooth finish on top. There we go. Now that hinge is ready as soon as it's dry. So now we'll just go ahead and get our silver paint on here. And then our book plate will be ready to go on. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint this and then wait for it to dry and put a second coat, I think, on. Because I want this to be silver too. I want it to be the same color as the others. And the blue ink's not showing through anyways. So that's not something for us to worry about. Whether we like it or not, because it's not really showing. But I will finish this, put a second coat on it, and then I will be right back. Okay, so while these are drying, I'm going to set them aside and show you what I was talking about the dangle that goes on the, like on the book spine of your book, and about putting a dangle on there. So I have this dangle here that I made quite a long time ago, if I can get a hold of it. So I have this dangle with an angel and love and a little, it reminds me of the little girl skunk on, or the Pepe Le Pew. And then we've got a little fairy and a key, a heart, a turtle. But I made this a while ago, and it's just been hanging around. Now, I didn't make the whole thing on camera because it takes quite a while to do one of these, to decide what you want and everything. But I'll show you kind of like what I did was I just took a chain, and then every few links I put a jump ring with some beads and a charm on it, just every few links, and I just put them all down there like that. And then when you hang them up, then you have this really nice full dangle for a project. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a jump ring, and we're going to jump ring it to the spring on our spine dangle. And then it will hang right in the middle of all of our ribbon. So I'm just going to open up, always open up a jump ring just by pulling it side to side. Don't ever pull them apart or you'll never get them back together. And then I'm just going to find the top of my chain, which is right here. And I'm just going to put the jump ring through the top of my chain. And then I am just going to, for right this second, I'm going to flip my ribbon up out of the way because I'm going to put this on just the middle part of the spring. Just put it around there. And then I'm going to get another pair of pliers just so it's easier to get in there, I think. Get hold of that side and then just turn the two right back together again, just like that. Now we're going to just bring this down in the front, bring our ribbon back around, and so now this is how it looks. We've got our dangle in the middle with our ribbon on each side, and in the back we've got this that we can just take our book and slide it right over the spine, just like that. Now this one is a little bit wide. It's not really grabbing the spine. So what I'm going to do is I want them to be closer together. So I'm going to put them back on opposite sides and kind of pull them away from each other. Put it back. Now they are right next to each other. So now when we take this and slide it down on our spine, now it will catch. Let's see if I can show you how it looks. And this is how it looks on the spine. We've got our ribbons, and then we've got our dangle. And that is easy to put on. It's easy to take off if it's in your way. You can dangle it off the front of your book. You can put it wherever you want it. But that is a way that you can use those springs. Also, besides, I like them for the closures. I think they work really good for that. But now we have a dangle for our spine. These are now dry. I did have to re-put down these front corners. I didn't have enough glue on them, so I had to put a little bit more glue and hold those down again. And the back side, I just messed up, I think. Yep. There we go. Put that back where it goes. That's not quite dry yet, so we're going to leave that be. And I will put the hinges on that exactly the way that I put them on the front here when it is completely dry. So I'm going to put the parchment back in there so it doesn't stick to the back page. Like that. And we'll just put that aside for a second, and I will be right back when the others are dry. Okay, I'm back, and while I was waiting for the heart and the screws to dry, the hinges dried, and so I put them on the back of the book, just like the front of the book, and I went and I found just this piece of scrap paper that it goes like this or something. I had this piece of scrap paper in my scrap box, and I believe that this is our faux distress, I forget what they're called. Anyways, this is one of the inks that we made, and that was just thrown in my scrap box, so I thought that the coloring for this was really pretty with the front of our book. I thought that went really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I just cut it out roughly to see what it would look like, and I like the way that it looks, so I'm going to go ahead and just trace around the heart with a pencil, and then I'll cut just inside the lines so that the paper will be a little bit smaller than my heart, because I don't want the paper to stick out behind the heart. I'm just going to kind of roughly trace around here. I'm just going to cut on my lines, just inside my lines, because my heart's not real big. This is not real wide, so I don't want to cut it too small, but I want to cut it small enough that it doesn't stick out the edges. And then we'll just glue this right on the back. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and some of the blue lines did come through, and I like the way that that looks, so I left it. I put 3 coats on it, so it may have, even if I put another coat on it, might have still come through, but I liked the way that that looked. So, all right, so I want to trim a little bit more in this area. This looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit right here. Maybe just a touch over here. And then definitely we need to take off this point at the bottom. So I'm just trimming it so that it will be a little bit smaller than the foam. And hopefully I'm not trimming it too much. Okay, so put this back on here again. And it looks pretty good except for here. And maybe I didn't get enough right here. And then we'll just glue this to the back of our heart, and then we can glue it right on the front of our journal. And we will have our own homemade book plate. That looks pretty good except for this little corner right here. Okay. And I'm just going to glue it on with tacky glue. Now, I haven't decided if I want to name this journal or not. You'll have to let me know what you think. Personally, this journal is going to be up for sale when it's finished, which it's almost finished now. And it's kind of like, I don't know if I should name the journal or not. To me, I think that the person who's getting the journal should be able to name it what they want to name it. And I like having the book plate on the front, you know, so that they don't have to like put a book plate on it, but then they'll have a place to write on there whatever it is that they want to name this journal. So I don't know, what do you think? I noticed that a lot of people name their journals, and I never have, and so I don't know. So let me know what you think. Okay, we're going to line this up on here like that. Let's turn it over and see what it looks like. I think that looks really nice. Don't squish it too much. Now, we're going to need to attach it to the front of our journal. So we are going to decide exactly where we want it before we put the glue on it. And so I think maybe up a little bit. Thinking, I think that looks really nice. Okay, so we're going to put it right there, which is kind of where I originally had planned on, right down there between the unicorn's legs, almost like he's jumping over it. So we're just going to put some glue on here. Make sure we get it glued down good because it's going to be on the cover. And it's going to go right there. All right, and now what I will do with this is I will set a book on top of it to hold it down nice and solid. And I will also, once it's a little bit dry, actually I could do it right now if I trim this down. I'm going to trim this down a little bit, and then when I put the book on it, this is going to go in that flap in the center. Okay, I'm trimming this down so that it doesn't touch the glue. That's why I'm doing this. I want it to be smaller than the center of my circle, or the center of my heart here. But then when I put the book on it, I'm going to put this in here. Then the book will press on this, and the book will press on this outside evenly to press down the center here where we glued it. So, and keep it held down while the whole thing is drying. Now the only thing is, to make sure that it stays on there, we need to screw it on. Now I've showed you how to make screws before, but I'm going to show you again in case someone hasn't seen it. So what we do to make our little screws, and we have these two little screws here to put on each side of our book plate. You just take a piece of your fun foam, just a little scrap of your fun foam, and you just punch out a hole, take it out of the punch, and now you've got the start of your screw here. And then what you're going to do is just take anything that's flat. Here, I've got my scissors right here, so I'm just going to take my scissors, kind of find the center, and then just give it a press. And you can do this with anything that you have that's flat, or you can draw a line straight across it with your pen. And so there we go. Now we have our screw. And if your scissors are really sharp, you would not want to do that. My scissors are not sharp, so don't cut yourself. And then we're just going to take our glue, put a little bit on the back of our screw. Uh-oh. I figure out this is the back. All right, I'll get it here in a second. Put a dot on there. And then it goes here, and I want my little screw line to go straight across pretty much. Wipe that glue off where I dropped it originally. Give that a little bit of a press. Now the book is going to actually want to push on this a little bit more than it's pressing the rest down, so I'll have to put a piece of fun foam across here that will level it up to this level, so that the whole thing is being pushed down. Otherwise, if I put a book on top of it, all it's going to do is sit on top of these two screws. Just going to line that up pretty straight. And so there we have it. We've screwed that on there now. So it's all going to be nice and sturdy. I'm going to put this right here where it's not touching any of the edges, where any glue could possibly have come out just a little bit and grabbed a hold of it. Then I'm going to take this and put it here, and another piece and put it here. Now these two pieces are as tall as my screws, and now I'm going to go stick a book on top of this and let it sit so that it can dry really well. So this is what we've done. This is what it looks like. I love the book plate. I think that looks great. And then we've got our hinge over here. I'm not going to tie it together today. You'll see it tied together the next time. Here are our hinges on the back. So on the inside too. And I've got the piece of parchment in there still, just waiting for that to dry. My super glue had dried, so I got these glued on here so that it would be done. But I don't want to tie them together for 24 hours until I know that super glue is really solid before I start pulling on these, because it's getting fat, so when you tie it together it'll be a little bit of a pull, and I don't want to pull them off. So there we go. I hope that you enjoyed that. We also have the dangle that we put on our spring from the whatchamacall, which looks like that and can hook on your book anywhere. You can even just hook it right on the front of your book, just like that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I really do appreciate you stopping by, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.